Thank you, Hugo.
Welcome, Jon.
Thanks. Happy to be here with you guys, and happy to talk about this case. So, as you know, as I think Hugo said, I understood most of what he said. This is a case that I spent 12 and a half years kind of building, and that's one of these things that in every one of these cases we sometimes lose sight of, is the fact that these are, people and teams who spend a ton of time and, a big chunk of their working life building them. So that was the case here for me. Obviously, we had a lot of success with the business at the point that we're talking about in the case. We had taken the company public, and, honestly, we had made a bunch of money, had tons of customers and all those types of things. But at the time of this case, we were more concerned than we were excited, in that, there was a different competitive environment than we had seen in the past. You had the kind of Airbnbs emerging, you had the online travel agencies showing interest in the space, and what had been a space that we built out as a subscription business, was changing. And we saw that happening, and, felt like we needed to understand whether we needed to react to that or not. And that's what we're talking about at the time of the case. So before we get started, I want to take a quick vote on your prep. Did you decide that we're going to stay the course with subscriptions, or that we're going to launch paper booking? So those of you, where's the marker? Oh, sorry, not my usual classroom. All right. How many of you want to stay the course with paper subscription and not roll out paper booking? Really? Okay, sure, we'll do a mixing. We'll do PPS, PPB, or a hybrid. But we're going to have to be very descriptive of a hybrid. All right, so let's try it again. Who wants to do PPS only? No one? PPB only? And a hybrid? Everyone else? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. All right. So, Chris, you're going to open for us, and look like you want to do PPB only. So, tell us why.
So, my objective for this case was to define whether or not to move forward with PPB, and if not, why, and if yes, how. The methodology that I used was an option comparison analysis, a competitive analysis, and a customer analysis. The assumptions that I took was that if I were to increase the marketing budget / customer acquisition cost, I would be able to increase my customer flow and customer base. The subscription fee on average was 3% of our revenue, and houses generated an average $28,000 in rental income. So before taking such a decision, we have to think of what's the main objective of the company, and that's to survive and make profit. And how do we make profit? Connecting our commercial associates with our final consumer. And for this to happen, we have to have a customer flow and a variety of houses, better if unique, at a competitive price point. So my main question was, does this change catalyzes this criteria while making financial sense? And based on my analysis, it does. If we change to a PPV method, assuming a 10% commission rate over rental income, we'll be able to increase our revenue and our commercial associates' revenue. Given that we will be able to increase our revenue per house, we'll be able to invest more in marketing, and which will allow us to increase our customer acquisition cost. With the same financial model that we're using right now, we'll be able to triple our marketing budget. If this can result in an increase of at least 11% more customers per house, it will also make sense financially for the homeowners to use this method. So it's good financially for both of us. And at the same time, it will make a lot more profit for us. But it's not only strictly financially, a good decision, but it has a lot of other benefits strategically. If we increase our customer acquisition cost, we'll be able to reach and acquire a lot more customers, which, given that we are a platform, will have a network benefit effect that I think is very important. This will not only increase our customers, but it will increase the switching cost, which will increase the lifetime value of the customer. Another benefit that I see is that we will be able to eliminate the initial capital, which will increase the listings. I'm expecting it to increase the listings. But apart from big managers, from big house managers, we will increase the homeowners who rent occasionally. And this is a special type of client because it generally has lower prices, more unique places, and there's more loyalty to a platform, which I think is very important. Another benefit that I see is that it will reduce the booking time and the complexity of the process. So you can see there's a lot of benefits when it comes to this change. And financially, it will have an effect on mainly two variables. The cost of revenue due to the increase in operational complexity, and the cost of marketing / acquisition cost. Using the same financial model as we are right now, we'll be able to increase if we use the same. If we compare with 2013, if we were to switch to a PPV method, we would have increased our profit to around 130 million compared to 33 million that we had. So it makes financial sense and it makes strategic sense. So that's why I would change to a PPV model.
So that was a great open. I have one question for you. What do you do with the existing subscriber base if you move to paper booking?
If I were to change, my main goal would be to have it operational by January of 2015.
Okay.
In these 6 months that we had, I think it's very important to get our commercial associates, which are our homeowners, to our side. So the first thing that I would do is make sure that the platform works very well. That's in the first 2 to 3 months. Make sure that it works well before saying anything. Second, I would for the third and fourth month, I would try to start introducing this new system to our homeowners. How will they benefit financially? Showing them that we're going to charge more, but we're going to invest a lot more in customer acquisition, which we're expecting it to increase their revenue. And I would do a complete rollout on January 2015, but the 6 months prior, I would use them to educate the homeowners so they get on our side, because they're basically our associates.
If I may, Chris, I have a question as far as what you expect the sentiment of your current subscriber base is going to be like, considering that you're basically increasing their overall costs in the long run. Probably, like you're actually decreasing it in the short term, but in the long run, if they have multiple bookings, they're going to end up paying us more. So, how are you going to square that with them?
Because we will be able to invest a lot more in customer acquisition. We'll be able to I'm expecting this to bring more customers. If this change will allow us to get around 11% more customers per house, it will make more financial sense to use this new method.
Right, but what do you do with the current ones?
In 2015, we don't charge the subscription, and we will use the new method. I don't understand.
Well, the question is, okay, so if I'm on your platform, and I'm currently on the subscriber model, I know that on average I'm paying you about 3% of what my income is. And now you're gonna come to me and tell me, you know what? As of January, you're gonna be paying me 10% per booking. That's not gonna sit very well with me, considering that I've been doing this for a while with you, right? So,
is there anything that we could tell you that would make it sit well with you? Is there any reason you'd like to pay 3 times as much for something?
I mean, if you can guarantee that I'll get 3 times the bookings, because basically it's the only way that it would average out what your cost would be.
Is it the only way it would average out? Does it have to be 3 times the bookings?
It's 11% more. You have to have it 11% more, which is not 3 times, which
Right.
is what we are expecting. And those 6 months, I would use them to educate our homeowners, which is going to be a change because there's always going to be resistance. But given the new competitive market, we have to invest a lot more in marketing, and we cannot do that without money. So it's also going to affect a lot the homeowners if we don't invest on those customers due to the network benefit effect.
I think maybe it's not. It's the big part of education for them, but also maybe some incentives that you have a lot of more sales, but maybe some incentive for them that maybe the first 3 bookings you won't pay a commission to us, and you realize that the first month you have more bookings than the previous years, and that will prove that we have a real good idea and it will bring more money to the table, and that way the 3rd booking you'll start paying us the commission. Maybe some incentive of that type. I don't know if anyone's thought of that.
I think that the incentives are a good idea, but let's not forget that we have a huge customer base, and not all of them are going to be incentivized by the same thing. So I think that the property listing managers who have an active business out of this will behave very differently than the homeowner that probably pays the subscription and forgets about it, and if something comes around, he'll do it. So I think that we need first to identify the different groups of associates that we have and figure out how to roll out the paper booking to each one of these segments.
So classically, HomeAway is what's described as a 2-sided platform. Are these associates our customers, or are the travelers our customers?
Both, simultaneously.
Which is our primary customer? This is Acton. We take a stand. We can't say both.
I think I see them more as our commercial associates, our homeowners, and the final consumer, the vacationist.
Okay. Why are they the primary customer? Is it because they're paying us?
Yeah.
They're the one who's using the service at the end, and they're the one who's paying.
But aren't they both using the service?
Well, but they're the ones listing on the platform so that we can ultimately sell to the people that are going to be staying there. So they would be like the first piece in the puzzle that needs to fall in.
What does the case tell us about what the first piece of the puzzle is?
That we have to make through the customers. We have to make money for the homeowners. Well, we have to bring customers so the homeowners make money, and that's why I see them as our associates. We provide them a service. We bring them the customers, but they're working with us.
But answering your question on page 4, I think the case is telling us on second paragraph, brand, just remember, this is all about demand. You don't have to worry about supply. Property listers if you're taking care of the customers, vacationers. So I think that's the first piece of the puzzle that solves.
Does that change your mind? Anybody? Or is it still associates? I just want to make sure we don't spend a bunch of time talking about what we do with the associates if they're not our primary customer. If they are, great. You want to take a quick vote on that? Who thinks the primary customer is the associates? Certainly Chris does. He's just defending it.
What I'm thinking is that if they're not well, we cannot provide the service to the final consumer. So they kind of come first. We have to have the houses in order to provide the service to the customers.
Okay, but is this a chicken and egg problem, or is there clearly a chicken and clearly an egg?
That's the main dilemma that I saw. One of the main dilemmas I saw in this case. Who is the customer?
Catch-22. I think that...
Sorry, if you don't have rental properties to provide, you don't have a product really. So I would honestly say that we're on the right track with the associates.
Okay. What is the best value proposition for adding more rental properties? Like, why, if you had a rental property, why would you come to HomeAway?
Okay, why would I come to HomeAway versus trying to rent it myself, for example? Sure. More exposure. I know that there's going to be a, let's call it captive demand trap within the platform that'll allow me to show it to more people than I would be able to do it on my own.
So when you say exposure, do you mean renters?
Yes, it's I use the liability term backwards. Sorry, my bad.
I basically think I would come to HomeAway because someone told me that I would make more revenue with that. Not because more exposure. I would come because Santiago, who is my neighbor, told me, look, I have this rental and it's super profitable.
So I feel like you guys are saying kind of the same thing. We're going after bookings, right? I'm coming to the site because it has bookings, or I think I can get bookings there. So that's pretty compelling argument for the traveler being the primary customer then, right? So let's do a quick vote on this one and then move on from it. But who thinks the traveler is the primary customer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we're pretty evenly split. Who thinks the owner is the primary customer, or the associates? Yeah, so we're pretty evenly split on it. Okay, good. Then let's spend some more time on it. Okay, so let's assume for a second that both of them are important customers, kind of where we started. We have 2 customers here. What impact would switching to PPB have on the travelers? Huh. Say more about that.
Well, because as a renter, I'm going to have to pay someone 3 times what I used to pay. Right? So.
Wait. We have to take a step back on that.
Sorry.
So as a renter, you're paying more? Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that this cost for the PPB will transfer over to this.
Got it. Okay. So let's walk through just a quick economic example of this. So what does the case tell us is the average stay? What does an average stay cost?
A week.
18 weeks is how many weeks get rented out by an owner. But if I'm a traveler, how much do I pay for an average stay?
1,000.
For a week.
For a week? 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so $1,500 today that I'm paying, and of that, so this is what the renter is paying. So in a PPB model, what does that mean for the owner?
He will pay us 10%.
And then what does that mean for HomeAway? What does HomeAway get? Okay. So in the PPS model, same transaction. What does the owner pay?
Assuming it's the first.
For an incremental booking, at a booking level, what do
Nothing.
they pay?
Nothing. They already
0.
paid this subscription.
What does HomeAway get for an incremental booking?
0.
So Jacobo, your point is that this number is going to become $1,650 if we roll out PPB.
That's my argument, yes.
Do you guys understand how that works? Do you agree that that's what's going to happen?
I do not agree that that's going to happen because HomeAway is creating value for the homeowner. So the way that the value is shared at this point is not relevant for both parties. The homeowners are getting too much value, and HomeAway is not getting a lot of that. So the end customer is not actually paying those 150, but the homeowner are taking this as a cost.
But his point is that they'll just pass it on because it's a variable cost for them now. They can pass it on to the consumer. What would tell us if they're likely to pass it on or not?
If they don't have a volume, if the volume will stay the same, they will likely pass it to the customer. But the volume of the rent will likely to go up. As you said, maybe 12%. They will likely to keep charging the same. And even if the market stabilizes and has the same prices, there's no incentive for why to pass it to the customer.
Well, there is, because again, it's a variable cost. So even if you're getting, say, 11% more bookings, you're still paying that extra off the top. So you're still making less money per transaction, let's say. So there is still an incentive to try to even out what you used to make with what you make now.
I agree that there's incentive for the homeowner, but maybe there's a way for HomeAway to not raise the prices, to level the market up, and for the customers, not for the homeowners, not to raise the prices.
There is always incentive for the owner to increase prices, but I feel like the price is set by the market. Like, you can't get out of market just because you have higher costs.
So is this a price-sensitive customer on the traveler side?
Not really. I think not really. In HomeAway, because they have in the case there's fact they said they're looking for vacation homes and very big, large homes. Or I think 1/5. If you're paying $1,500, I don't know if you're gonna not book the house for $150 extra or not.
They do have competition though. Like, they have other websites that have competition. Like, if you're looking at here and it costs 16, like the market price right now, let's say it's 1,500, but you're gonna pass on the owner costs to 1,650, and in the other website it's 1,500. You're gonna go to the other website.
It's true, but remember that the houses are actually not comparable because they have different characteristics. But the thing is that many of these owners actually showcase their properties on several platforms. So if we pass on this cost to the end customer in this platform, that means the other platforms will have lower costs, so they will actually go away.
The other thing is that it says here that believing that 3% to be very low, the company saw its fee as a key feature of its value proposition for suppliers. So if we consider that it's very low, there's still value to be shared here. So it's a thing where we're going to have to decide between sharing value and seeing the low price as a value proposition, and the competition entering the market is going to shift that.
I think the important thing here is what that extra money will represent. If we can bring more customers, they will go to our platform, even though they're going to charge them less in another platform. If it's not making them money, they're going to go with HomeAway. So we need to focus on generating that extra volume if we're going to increase the price.
And besides not generating that volume, but at the same time, keeping that customers or that houses that we need to make the profitable. Because at the end, if we let them like compete one against each other, then our business value model is going to lose, because we can ensure them that for this subscription, you're going to receive X, Y days of rental. So at the end, we have to manage that who enters and who doesn't enter the market.
But in this case, we're then assuming that the price will rise, so the market will allow it.
Is that a safe assumption? Do we have a high risk if we were to roll out PPB of the market just not tolerating the price increase?
That is if we increase prices, correct? Like, right now there is a market price, and if we increase the price, we think we're getting out of market, correct? But like with higher volume, like I think Chris's point is like with higher volume, you can have a less cost, but because at the end you're selling a lot more, at the end you're going to have more profit or more revenue.
But does the math work if you kept price at 3% of bookings and moved to PPB? Chris?
Well, I didn't test it. I'm going to put it right now.
With a 3% commission in
3%
PPB?
commission?
Yeah, if just say you made this 10% to 3%, which is I think what you're saying, which is what if price didn't change? What if you just move cost from fixed to variable, but the price stayed the same? What would happen? Is that a solvent business?
you probably couldn't invest as much as Chris had planned on marketing. Well, you couldn't probably your conversion rate, like I'm guessing what Chris was trying to what his point was that yeah, we're charging more, but we're investing it. So if you reduce that 10% to 3%, you're probably staying the same, but the conversion rate, like he used the word associates a lot, and I like another synonym. It's partners. Like here, as long as they're making more, we're making more as well. They're strategic partners. So, like as in the PPB model, as long as they're selling more, we're making more, and they're making more.
Wow.
So that's what I.
Is that partner's message, the we're going to spin together and drive more bookings together, a message that will resonate well?
Yes, and the thing here to your solvent question, I think it's that we haven't discussed the lifetime value, how it's going to change once we go to PPB, right? Because it's going to depend on how many bookings we get. So we've been accustomed to having a flat fee, and it doesn't matter if the property gets booked or not because we already received the revenue. So now the business challenge becomes driving more bookings.
Let's just take a quick second on that one. Does it matter if we drive them bookings in a subscription model?
No.
I think it does in the long run for the lifetime value of the customer, right? Because if I don't drive the bookings, maybe the first year I'll pay you, but then the second year I'm like, I don't get any bookings in that website, so I'm gonna leave. So it does matter in the long run.
Case, tell us anything about how the company views retention of customers?
Retention of customers.
Retained revenue in an ARR model is highly predictable. That's your hint.
They already invested in us because of our subscription model. So we have a really ongoing revenue and proven model, and it's very risky to switch.
And what do subscription models rely on? You said it
subscriptions.
earlier, LTV, right?
Yeah.
So, but how does LTV manifest itself in a subscription model?
Well,
What do you do with Netflix every month?
I just pay every month regardless if I use it or not. Yeah.
Okay. So, what happens if we don't drive them any bookings after they've paid us?
They won't renew.
They won't renew.
And that's a thing that switching to PPV, it's a big step, and really interesting because it will allow really a lot of properties that haven't tried HomeAway before that they don't need to pay an upfront fee. So that way they can try it and they will see like, whoa, we have a big traffic, and that way HomeAway will focus only on getting more customers and more customers. That way it's like a snowball. We get more customers, we'll get more listings, and more listings with more customers, so it's really good. But the part that caused me a lot of conflict was with a customer that been working with us for the partners, but we've been working with us for 10 years, that been paid $350 that represented maybe 1-2% of their income, of their total income, and switching to a 10%, how will they affect their relationship towards us and the lifetime value?
So to a new customer, is it easy or hard, or easier or harder to sell PPB than paper subscription?
Easier.
Why?
Lower risk. They're not accustomed. They are not accustomed to the previous method. The other ones are like, they've been on this method for 10 years. It has worked for them because they have made money out of it, and now you're changing the rules of the game for them and saying like, I know you paid this before and it has worked for you before, but now it's completely changing. But so that's where the what does he say, choke? Like that's where there's gonna be some resistance. Like something that a proven method that has worked for them is gonna be changing.
So isn't that an argument for a hybrid model?
Yeah.
I mean, don't we just keep the subscription customers on the subscription program and start new customers on paper booking?
For me, the hybrid choice is the better one, because for me, implementing PPB is to gain a new market share with new segments that are the ones that the clients that we don't have right now, that are the property managers and the infrequent, where is it? And the infrequent property listers. So I think that if we have the two methods, we will have our actual clients happy. Let them be with the method that it's already working for them. And with the PPV method, we will have a lot of more market share, and we will gain new customers. That I think that it's a better benefits, the PPV method.
But be a lot of challenges if we have two different business models.
Talk about it.
And imagine if you're a new client of HomeAway and you're paying 10% and your neighbor's paying 3%, you're gonna feel a lot of injustice. And the ones that are paying 10% are gonna be financing for the ones who are only paying 3%, financing the extra marketing if we're gonna invest a lot more in marketing. So there's gonna be like I think there's going to be a lot of challenge on the two models coexisting.
Worse than that, and adding a little bit to Chris, I feel like it gets to a point where each time you close a sale with the pay for subscription, it's going to be a cost to the company, because as a company, you're going to try to incentivize the pay as you go, the pay as, ¿cómo se dice? Paper booking, because that's where you make money. So at the end of the day, you're going to be incentivizing pay-per booking, and the subscription method is not going to be incentivized, because each time a subscription method is closed, you're losing money. So those two systems coexisting is impossible, because one is going to be your partner, where both makes money, and the other one, the other person makes money and you lose money.
But I think there could be a way of managing them both without. Let's see, having them as a stepping stone of one another. Let's say for the first 2 weeks that you're booking the property, you have those 2 weeks to subscribe, to pay your subscription.
No.
Then you move towards
but
a
let's say,
pay-per-booking
Carlos,
rate.
let's put an example. A person, an end customer, is going to try to book a house in Rio Dulce, let's say. There are 10 listings. You as a company, which are the listings that you're going to put first? The ones that each time they list, you receive money, or the ones that already have their subscription? Because if you don't try to incentivize the ones that make you money, you're losing money.
But you're trying only to incentivize vacationers. I'm saying we have to incentivize owners as well, in the sense that we have to help them into breaking even in the property, and making them a business partner in the business.
I have a question. Aren't we, if we follow this hybrid model, aren't we trying to be all things for everybody? Everything for everybody?
It's like pricing in the middle. You're not attacking any of the two customers.
Yeah.
And we're going to be like left in the middle, and I see that as a big challenge and a problem.
So one idea that sorry.
Go ahead, please.
One idea that could work, that I've seen work in my own business, is that you could manage both models as long as you have two distribution channels. Because the thing is that once you have like one customer talking to another and you're treating them differently, you as a direct company that provides service to them, that becomes a mess. But once you go through a distribution channel, things change, and the customer perceives each distribution channel differently. So what would happen if we were to do the paper booking model through OTAs?
It's an interesting idea.
Sorry?
The online travel agency, the Expedias of the world.
Oh, okay.
But I think you can manage both models in the same platform, because now you're with the PPS model, so your customer will be all the homeowners and property listers. But if you change to PPB model, you're like telling them, okay, let's be partners, and our customer will be the end user of the platform. So you can give them the option to either be your partner or your customer by telling them, like, well, if you know you can rent your property for at least 4 weeks, then then you will be better off with the subscription model. Otherwise, you will get the PPV model. So you're giving them the option to partner with you or to be your customer.
Try that again, more concise. What's the main point?
You can increase the value proposition of the platform by giving them the option to either be your customer or your partner.
I agree with you, and I think transparency and communication is the key to avoid this kind of conflicts you guys are talking about. If you're very transparent, you can give them the formula. Listen, here's your listing, and if you can calculate, if you can rent it for more than 4 weeks, then we recommend you the subscription plan. If not, we recommend this. I think the transparency is a key issue to handle this
Why
hybrid.
is this a conflict at all? We can offer more choice, right? Isn't that a differentiator?
Yeah, and you could, this sounds great because you could cap the subscription. So the subscription includes your first 4 or 5 bookings, and after that you'll have a commission fee.
And I think it's an interesting way of attracting new customer by the PPV method, but as I see it, it's conflicting, because if I have my listings in pay-per booking and I do 3 bookings, after 3 bookings, it will be more convenient for me to switch to paper subscription. So how do I make the point? And what I thought is maybe start with paper booking, and with a new customer, they can only stick to paper booking, and to the other paper subscription, maybe fade it away after a while or raise the prices so we can be more competitive. And the important thing is in the platform have a same level of importance to the client, because if they realize that we're pushing more for the paper booking bookings, they will have a big conflict of interest for the homeowners whose
Let's
paper
take a quick
subscription.
step back for a second. Is there a good incentive alignment between the owner, HomeAway, and the traveler in the paper booking model? So tell me about it. Like, how is the incentive aligned? Like, what are we all trying to drive for in that case?
When it's pay per booking, it's with each booking everyone wins. With pay for subscription, it's not as clear.
Okay. So what is the incentive structure in paper subscription? What does HomeAway want to do in a paper subscription?
Get more homeowners, but not exactly having those homeowners book their property, because in paper subscription, HomeAway makes money getting more homeowners, but homeowners make the money if their home gets rented. So it's correlated, but it's not exactly aligned.
Easy or hard to manage that misalignment?
I think it's hard. Plus, if you as HomeAway are investing money in those, and you're not getting anything in return except the customer lifetime value in the next renewal, then it's going to be very hard to track that money, instead of like Chris's method, where I invest money and then you get more rent, so I get a little bit more money. It's a little bit easier to manage.
Here, if they do both methods, where do they focus their investments in? Getting more clients or having a higher conversion rate?
Building on Alex's point, so in the PPV method, everyone has this main objective of booking. If we have a subscription base or even a hybrid, we're going to be looking for more homes, and they're going to be looking for more bookings. So the two incentives are not aligned. Rather than the PPV, everyone's focused on bookings.
But don't you agree that for HomeAway, their biggest importance is having more customers?
I feel like in HomeAway, if you can prove the business model and you're already doing huge marketing in getting closing at the same, marketing and closing is the same as marketing to get new homeowners. You're making the market aware that there is this option. I don't know if you know what I mean. When you market to close renters, you're marketing at the same time to possible renters to rent their vacation home. So you have more money for marketing either way. And at the same time, you're having a more proven business model, because prices, costs might be higher, but at the end of the year, revenue is going to be higher for both parties. What's better, having one one sale that makes $10 or having two sales that make $7.
So is there any reason for the acquisition of new customers to keep a subscription product, or are we only talking about a subscription product for the existing set of subscribers?
It's a difficult decision because the word is spread. There's a subscription model. So if I want to I have 3 proper listings and I want to get into it and I know I made my numbers, it will make more sense for me as a homeowner to switch, to get inside right to the pay per subscription model. And if it's not available, will this create a conflict?
There was one other fact that is important to note, that the risk is much less in pay per booking. You have less risk on that sector because you are only paying once you're assured that you have a booking. So you as a homeowner or whatever you're looking at have zero risk.
So let's drill in on that for a second. Did anybody put together a sales funnel for this business? All right, let's do it together. So what does the sales funnel look like? How do we sell to owners today?
Yeah. It's very organic. It says that because we're making money to our current homeowners, it's very word of mouth.
So word of mouth is our channel. Who's our target?
Vacation, usually families mostly.
People that have 2 homes?
It says in the case that mostly the people who are traveling are maybe not family but big groups.
We're talking about property owners, associates.
So I think people that have a vacation home, extra vacation home.
Okay. So extra being, so it's a second home.
Second home, yes, second.
Okay, so second homeowners is the target. Are we sure that's the only target?
That's 65%, and we have the other 35% being property listing managers.
Is that a separate sales funnel?
Yes.
Okay, why is it a separate sales funnel?
They have different interests.
And they are using multiple platforms.
Usually, it's not their home. Maybe they are another key player that having too many houses from different owners, and they are only administrating them.
It's a separate sales funnel because we market to them differently, right? Okay, how do we market to them?
You can market them as them having a tool and a place where they can book more homes.
I think it's profit. They're profit driven.
That's a value prop. What's the channel?
The property manager.
Direct sales to the property manager, basically.
Yeah.
All of those as value props. How are we going to tell them about the value props? Are we going to put up billboards? Are we going to, throw brochures out of helicopters? How are we going to do this?
At first, it was word of mouth also.
So word of mouth for property managers too?
At first.
Direct sales force?
Maybe.
Online advertising.
Advertising online? Yeah. We're building a sales funnel that will inform this decision.
So in the homeowners, apart from word of mouth, who could also invest in more online marketing?
I'm abbreviating this as SEM, SEO. That's search engine marketing, search engine optimization. All right. And then value prop wise, we have those pretty well laid out, right? Somebody said more traffic, bookings, exposure, and that's the same for both, right? Is there anything different on the value props between those two?
For the homeowners, me as a homeowner, I wouldn't be so much interested in getting traffic or getting my second home booked 40 weeks a year, but instead managing to make good profit, side profit in 20 weeks, for example. So I wouldn't put traffic as a priority when what I would be searching for. So
what would you replace it with?
I would replace it for maybe taking care. I want my house to be taken care of. I want it to be that
quality traffic.
Yeah, quality traffic. I want to break even in less nights instead of, mass producing it.
Another maybe value proposition could be the book now button we haven't talked about, and it's really interesting because it gets more bookings and it books instantly.
And does that apply to both? Isn't that this point? Okay.
I think that property managers might be interested in reporting because we were talking about managers that would manage 1,000 homes. So some reporting or information about how many homes you got booked and when are bookings expiring, and that would be a huge value proposition for managers. Yep.
So with those sales funnels laid out, which business model, pay-per subscription or pay-per-booking, suits the acquisition of second homeowners better?
Pay-per subscriptions is what suits those better, just based on the quality renters kind of aspect of it. You're not trying to make a quick buck. You're trying to make, I guess, the most financial sense per booking.
Anybody disagree? All right. And on property managers? They're less concerned with quality. They just want more bookings, want some data. Which model suits them best?
Pay-per-booking.
Per booking.
Why?
Because they don't have to pay an upfront fee, and if they have 100 listings, they will have to pay a big upfront money.
It's also easier to keep track data-wise of like multiple individual bookings versus one large swath of time being rented out for a specific property.
What type of cost is PPB? We talked about this earlier. Is it variable or fixed?
PPB is variable.
Right. Does that variability of the cost matter more to property managers than it does to second homeowners?
I think it does matter more to second homeowners because if they're not looking for volume, then they'll pay less with pay-per-booking.
I disagree. I think it is more for property managers. I think property managers are dealing more in a price-sensitive market, retail-wise. Instead of a second homeowner, let's say I would be spending $2,000 for a week. I would be less price-sensitive in making a choice.
Carlos, I have a question. If you were a homeowner, if you had a second home, and you put it in home away, would it be easier for you? Would you feel more comfortable if you had to pay an initial subscription, or just sign into the platform and wait till you get a booking to pay? Which one would be easier for you?
It is actually easier for me, the subscription fee. I wouldn't have a need to keep track of it or have to worry about maintenance. I would even reach break-even value of 6 weeks. So after the 6 weeks, it's all profit for me. So I would be more relaxed in that sense. I wouldn't be worried that, I have only been booking 2 weeks and I'm in June, so what's next?
Are you concerned about the initial cash outlay to buy the subscription?
Pardon?
Are you concerned about the initial cash that you're going to have to put out to buy the subscription?
No, if it's the $400.
No, but Carlos, you remember that at this point you're a new property owner that you're actually entering the platform. So you don't know that you're going to book your property for 18 times a year.
What I was thinking now, if you have a second home that you're going to rent, $350 is not going to be a barrier to entry. Like, it's like you have a second home that's a vacation rental. Like, it's nothing, the $350. I think that that's not going to stop you if you have a $400,000 home that's sitting just there. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
So what are you saying? You would rather switch to paper booking?
I think that as a homeowner, it's not that relevant.
What's not that? So do you agree with the point that a homeowner is, it sounds like what you're saying is the homeowner is just going to do a subscription because it's easier and it's not that much money to them anyway.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I think that the paper booking for managers makes a lot of sense because it's an active business. So if you have a variable cost in this, instead of a fixed cost, and you have that as a business, it makes much more sense.
But I have a conflict right now because I was thinking, if I'm a property manager and I have 50 listings and I already know that they will be booked, wouldn't it make more sense to have a paper subscription, like financially for me? If I have 50 listings, I think for me it would make more sense because I will have more profit for myself.
Yeah.
Well,
The thing
for the
there is that
property
it's
owners,
not sustainable for HomeAway. Like that would be the ideal scenario, right? But as long as you make money, right? Like the thing what clicked for me right now is that these two things are totally different, right? And that you can't expect to treat a commercial customer and I don't know, a personal customer the same way. And I think that if we add that up to having different distribution channels, that could be a great way to go because it's totally different now that we're seeing the funnel here.
So is it as simple as adding on another distribution channel and say, look, everybody gets to be on HomeAway.com, but if you use paper booking, we'll also distribute your content to Expedia?
Yeah, something like that. And also you have Expedia that has this conflict of interest with hotels and stuff. So if they do it through you, you can also help this great distribution channel and have the properties go much more further.
Don't you think that by just identifying two separate sales funnel, you're establishing two distinct distribution channels? Or what would be the point at what would be the difference from doing this and from establishing the distribution channel?
The thing is that my experience has been that you can sell the same thing to different people as long as you keep them separated, right? And how much you can charge and how you sell it actually works a lot. Like in our case, we'll sell to small customers very differently directly, and we'll sell through cell phone carriers to huge banks in a totally different way.
But in this industry, would you say that one house that is privately a home, that is a second home, wouldn't be advertised or exposed to the a booking page?
To an OTA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that people are going already to HomeAway to find their vacation rentals, and it's a specific niche. But you could start the new distribution channel through OTAs and start marketing through there to property managers who really want more volume.
but won't that separate your main customers? Because I think they both have vacation rental listings. Won't they separate? Won't this switching to the maybe property manager switching them to the OTAs will split your properties?
Yeah, I think so. But the thing is that you want the bookings, right? It doesn't matter how you get them.
Well, is a key value proposition of the business selection or not? Is a key value proposition of the business selection? Do we need to have all the properties in one place? Is that important or not?
I think it is, and that's one of our success factors. We have so many homes, and when we're the platform with the most homes. So I think it's important to keep them all within the same platform. And if we're gonna use Expedia or an OTA, we should have them all. And if imagine as a homeowner, you notice that your house is not in Expedia, and the house beside you is. I think there's gonna be a lot of resistance to that.
But that's a benefit for going to a paper booking model. Like if I'm paying a paper booking model, I'll be able to be in Expedia and wherever I am. If I want a subscription, like I'll stay just in HomeAway. So the thing is that you're charging differently and providing a different value proposition to different specific needs, right? So I wouldn't see a conflict there because if you switch models, you can actually get more or less depending on the model you're at.
But the problem that I see with your option is that one of the key elements that the end customers see in our platform is availability. So when I enter, Austin, I want to know that there are several options there. So with your model, the problem is that those options are going to be cut in half.
If you look at them through Expedia, right? And plus, you're going to maybe have a less inventory in Expedia, but the customer base is the volume of the customers is going to grow exponentially. So I agree with Manolo, as long as you're very transparent with your plans and with your homeowners, that this is what includes in the paper booking and this is what includes in the paper subscription, I don't see an issue.
All right, let's do a quick timeout here. We can kind of continue to go into the subscription model and what that entails, the paper booking model of what that entails, and if we can sell those as different products. And then, basically we can do that for another 15 minutes and then go to an epilogue, or we can do an epilogue now, and I'll do question and answers for the rest of the time. Which one do you guys want to do?
Epilogue, please.
Anybody not want to do epilogue and Q&A? Cool. Okay. So, I'll tell you what we ended up doing is we basically did a similar analysis to this and decided that for acquisition, we actually first we decided that at the end, this was all going to be PPB. It was all going to end up where you said it would, which is we wanted to move to a variable cost model. We wanted we wanted the incentive alignment of HomeAway and the owner and the traveler to be the same. And, we saw the market moving around that way. A lot of new things had emerged in categories that weren't our category, but were patterns that we could recognize. And we knew it was all going to transactional and away from subscription. But we had 1 million people that were on subscriptions, right? So what we ended up doing is a hybrid. And the hybrid that we ended up doing was intended to move people from subscriptions to paper booking over time. How do you do that? You increase cost on paper subscriptions, right? So basically we made paper subscription prohibitively expensive, and that moved people over to PPB. Today on HomeAway, you can still buy a subscription. It's prohibitively expensive and it's not as good. The other thing that's important to note, the case just briefly talks about this, but they cut it out kind of for simplicity, is that, $350 was kind of the starting price. We had a lot of customers who were paying us more than $350. And they were, quite honestly, 25% of our customers were willing to pay up to pretty much whatever we wanted to stay high in the search results. And that's really what you're selling. When you allow subscribers to buy search results, it's just like on Google. The natural search is better than the paid search because the natural search is sorting for relevance, whereas the paid search is sorting for who pays them the most, right? That was exactly the problem we ran into, so we wanted to get more people onto subscription. Onto paper booking. Now I would say paper booking's probably 90% of the business. So it took a long time to transition it. And it's one of those things when you go out to a customer base that's used to renewing every year, and we talked a little bit about retention, our retention rate was over 80%. So we were a retention business. These people are with us for a long time. The lifetime value of a customer was 7 times their first year purchase price, right? So, this was a very strong subscription business, so making that move was difficult for them. And, we lost some customers in the process, but really not that many in the big picture of things. The other thing, and we talked a little bit about this point in the beginning, has to do with price sensitivity. What we found is that there was basically no price sensitivity within these renters. So the way we aligned incentives in the short term was we put a fee on renters. Okay? So when a renter would do a booking through the site, they would pay us a variable fee. So even if the booking was on a subscription listing, HomeAway was making variable money from the traveler. So that's the other thing that really kind of got the incentive alignment right. We ended up, the year we did the traveler fee, that was the biggest kind of variability year we had. And, you know, there was always a ton of interest in HomeAway from OTAs. So we ended up selling the business right before we did that because we were a public company and we were very worried about the short-term impact of making that transition without kind of a larger public company to do that within, right? You know, we didn't want to be 100% of that change. We'd have rather been 15% of that change while we were making the change. The change ended up working beautifully. We grew faster the last year I was there than we did, you know, the year we went public, for example. I mean, it dramatically accelerated growth because we were able to spend so much more money on marketing because of the incentive alignment and the better economics. So we ended up selling the business in 2015 to Expedia for $4 billion. And I stayed there, I guess, a year after that and then left. And the business continues on to this day. They've rebranded it as VRBO, which is one of the sites that we acquired and still the biggest traffic site. And it's an independently operating division of Expedia at this point. So that's kind of how the case ended. You guys touched on most of the relevant facts. I've taught this case almost 20 times now. Only one time has somebody come up with the traveler fee idea. So that was, I guess, the one thing that you didn't get to, but that's a tough one to get to, and I wouldn't have expected it. So, all right. Happy to answer any questions you guys have about the case or anything else.
Related to the case, how long did it took to the transition?
6 years. I mean, it's still transitioning, right? So, I mean, we did this, and I think it's a great lesson of kind of beginning with the end in mind. Like, we knew that this had to all get to PPB, but we had this giant revenue base and this giant customer base, and we felt like the thing we could differentiate on was being a good partner and offering a lot of choice. So we were like, hey, if you want to keep a subscription, fine, but we're going to be spending so much more money on marketing that you have to pay your part. So if you want to pay a subscription, it's just going to be more. And the funny thing about that messaging is as soon as you message it that way, the owners feel like they're a part of the marketing. So then, like, if you roll out a commercial, this happened. We rolled out a commercial and it shows somebody playing with their dog. And we got 10,000 emails that were like, well, my house isn't pet friendly. You know, they didn't understand, well, we might have more than just your house on the site. You know, so.
How do you differentiate yourself? Like, for example, you knew you build a huge customer base on subscription model, and then you decided to switch by being pressured by the market and other things. But how to know you're making the right decision because this has built your company.
You never know you're making the right decision. I think we were able to convince ourselves that we were making the right decision because A, we were offering choice. So we were allowing people who were on a subscription to keep a subscription. And B, we saw from other businesses, like Uber is an example of this, but like you've got to be able to spend money on marketing. If you can't spend money on marketing, your business isn't going to work, right? If you're in a competitive market. So we felt like we had no choice but to take our economics up such that we could compete on marketing. If you think about it, at this time, like Airbnb wasn't directly in our category. Their overlap with us was something like 5%, right? But they were getting about 12 to 16 points per transaction. We were getting 3. They were, you start to make that factorial over time, and they're going to just crush you with marketing spend. And that was why those were the things that made us confident in the choice. Also, I mean, we did tons of choice modeling and analysis about pricing to decide what we were going to price at on the traveler side. And then we rolled it out and we watched it closely. And the fact of the matter is there was basically zero price sensitivity. We took one of our most talented executives and made her in charge of retention because we were so worried that we were going to lose tons of customers when we did this. We planned in our financial plans to lose 9% of customers, right? So we planned for a 9-point drop in renewal rate. You know what we ended up having? +1. Just nobody cared. Like it was, the economics were so incredibly good that we had so much flexibility that I think we underestimated the flexibility we had. And looking back at the case, I think everyone around it would have loved to have made this decision in 2011 and moved more fast.
So my second question would be, how did you handle the cash flow? You had the benefits with the subscription model besides the paper book.
Yeah, I mean, basically it created a cash cycle issue with Google for a bit, but we had always run to such strong margins. I mean, we were basically a 35% profit margin business. So even in our seasonal peaks, our booking window was only about 90 days. So we never had cash problems.
What did you guys do about the Book It Now button?
So Book It Now, I think, is required now. That was going to be the plan. Book It Now is actually, in my mind, a separate discussion because it was one of these things where if you have customers who insist on living in the past, how much is it your job as the platform to bring them to the future, right? All of us internally, and pretty much anyone who understands how the internet works, knew that we were going to Book It Now, right? Like, nobody wants to send an owner an email and hope that they respond and this kind. They just want to book the house that they see online, right? We knew that. Travelers knew that. It was very hard to make owners understand that. So we always talk about it in terms of carrots and sticks, right? So we did a lot of carrots, which is we gave them benefits. If you signed up for Book It Now, you'd come up in search results. We would feature you on things like Expedia, things of that nature. If you didn't get any of those things, you dropped like a rock in search results, and only somebody who was looking for 8-bedroom houses would ever find you, right? So the retention rate for people who didn't have Book It Now was quite low, but I think it would have been low anyway. Like, those weren't good listings.
Did it actually? Chris was mentioning that he wanted to launch his initiative in January, but I guess that you guys have seasonality based on vacation time. So did you take that into account into the rollout and marketing?
We did. We ended up launching it. I think we ended up launching it in January, but we started communicating. This is another big lesson of it. Communicate early and often. Like, if something like this is happening and you can tell people 6 months ahead of time, they will appreciate it. If you just change it, they will be pissed, especially if you change it in the busy season, right? In the U.S., especially, and most of our business was U.S., what happens is people get together over the holidays, they talk about doing family trips, and then they get back to work on January 3rd or whatever, and they start booking. And that's the busy season. So you book most of your bookings during the first quarter. Most of your stays happen in the second and third quarter.
I have another question. It's not related, but mostly to the acquisition with Expedia. Sure. What were the biggest challenges during that?
During the post-merger integration?
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. Like, it made all the sense in the world on paper, but the fact of the matter is, and the biggest thing that made sense on paper is when you're moving from a subscription to a per booking model, you're moving to a variable model that's reliant on conversion. And those guys had been doing online conversion for 20 years. We really hadn't. So the ability to bring in people who were focused on conversion, it was, a big win for us. The guy who, runs HomeAway currently was the head of product at Expedia, right? So he's a conversion expert. And, I think that is one of the things that was a big driver for it. Things that anytime you're integrating a company into another company, it's painful. All the people from the company that's getting acquired are like, they hate us, and it's not really true, or they wouldn't have bought you. But so you have a bunch of that. We had a tremendous amount of turnover, right? Which, you make a bunch of people rich and they don't want a job anymore. I don't know how else to put it. That was a problem post-acquisition, right? We lost a ton of people because of that. And it's one of the things you have to think about how much you want to retain the culture you've built versus accepting the culture of the company that you're becoming a part of. And I have a bias on that, which is the answer is almost always you need to accept the culture of the company that's purchasing you. But that's, and those are all things that were, considered heavily. I don't think we would have sold the business. Like, we weren't in a hurry to sell the business. The business was doing quite well. We think Expedia, and I'll tell you, to this day, I think Expedia was the perfect acquirer for this business. If I had it to do all over again, I'd do it exactly the same way.
So who was the primary customer at the end?
So I say it in the case, but to me, the primary customer was always the demand side. I feel like in marketplace, travelers, the demand side. In any business, any marketplace business, and when I say business, I almost always mean a two-sided platform because it's the only type of business I work in or like or anything else. But in a two-sided platform business, you're either demand constrained or you're supply constrained. We were always demand constrained because what we had, you saw 18 weeks a year booked. It was usually 40 weeks a year available. So we were only booking half the time. So that is a classic demand constraint. So I always felt like if we had more travelers, we'd make more money. I don't love this analogy, but I used to say it all the time, so I'll say it now, which is I felt like it was like we were at a bar, and if you could get travelers, it was like letting ladies into the bar for free, right? Because the guys will show up if the ladies are there, right? It was basically that, but with, as long as there were travelers, you were going to get the owners. That wasn't a hard part of the equation because the owners were going to come where they could get, and, we wrote these up here like they were all similar. They aren't. This one is way bigger. It's all owners care about. If you drive bookings, they'll come do business with you. You tell them you're going to double prices, but you'll double bookings, they say, sign me up. It's really all about the bookings.
Keep the 10% PPB?
We did on PPB, and then, remember, it was 10% PPB to owners, plus 6% to travelers. That number's now like 9 to travelers. So, yeah.
Did the Book It button actually doubled the revenue?
The Book It Now button doubled an individual property's revenue at first. Then, as soon as everybody accepted Book It Now, it probably increased you by like 30%. It got saturated. Basically, the doubling was a benefit of coming up in search results because you were on Book It Now and many others weren't. It was a great value prop for selling people to get onto Book It Now. And as is the case with HomeAway itself, right? When we started HomeAway, this idea of, and somebody hit on it with the safety checks and quality renters, this is all the second homeowners cared about. Like, if somebody ruins my house, this isn't worth it, right? Because my house is going to be worth more tomorrow if I do nothing to it. There's appreciation of real estate, right? So what we saw is once people tried it, they loved it. They were like, oh my God, I make all this money and I don't really have to do anything. The house actually gets cleaned way more when renters are staying in it, because it gets cleaned after every stay, than when I'm just using it once a year, right? So that same thing happened with the Book It Now button. People were really worried about Book It Now. Just a team of spring breakers was going to book it and come in and just destroy your house. As soon as that didn't happen, they were like, oh my God, this is so much easier and I get way more bookings. So they accepted it.
Where do you see the industry going next?
Well, I think when I would answer it in 2 parts. Like, where do I see the industry going next has to do with where I see the industry kind of coming from. I think what we did at HomeAway, and we got a big assist on this from Airbnb and their success, is we changed the way people think about travel. Most of you guys have probably grown up in an era when you can book houses, right? It didn't used to be that way. I mean, in 2005, you had to really try if you wanted to book a house. The category awareness was under 10%. Like, it just wasn't a thing. And we've made it a thing. And I think in the process, we made travel much better, right? Because there's more choice. Where do I see the category going? I think it goes more mainstream. And I think it actually has some unintended consequences on other things. One, I think it expands the definition of what we think of as travel, right? So it used to be that you'd only consider traveling and staying in a hotel. Well, now you can do a different trip. You can take your whole family and stay in a house. You can do a bachelor party and stay in a house. You can do a family reunion and stay in a house. Those are expanded definitions of travel. I think you see the same thing in the camping space. I now run a business that's basically exactly like HomeAway, but for renting out recreational vehicles, right? So all of those are expansions of travel that didn't happen prior to these two-sided platforms coming into travel, right? So I think it goes there. I think another unintended consequence is what it's done to hotels. I think hotels used to be all very similar. You walk in, you have maybe a refrigerator if you're lucky. It's about this big. You probably don't. And you have a couple of beds, and all the rooms are the same. If you have more than 2 people, it sucks. And now you see hotels making suites and making rooms that are configurable such that you can rent one room and another one right next to it. So it feels more like a house. So hotels have changed the way they've operated to anticipate this demand and try to address it. So I think the winner at the end of the day is consumers, and travel's just way better now. Also, funny enough, the hotels hated us because, we're taking business away from them. What has happened since we started is that the travel industry has grown so much faster than we've grown as a segment of it that the hotel business is way bigger now. So, I mean, those are other things when you think about the impact of a transformational business on a market. It's not just to that business.
How did the company manage to increase the prices of the subscription? Since once you start pricing low, it's like really hard to increase prices. And how much is that price now?
So the simple answer is it isn't hard to increase prices when your value proposition is strong, regardless of where you started. So think of free trials. Free trials happen all the time. If you get a free trial of Amazon Prime and you're like, you guys have that, right? Sorry. Okay, so Amazon Prime, you try it and you're like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. There's no way I wouldn't pay $99 a year for it. So if the value proposition is strong, you have price flexibility. All right, one more question, so I want to make sure you guys end up.
What was your biggest lesson going to a startup that started from scratch and then grew to a multi-billion company?
So the biggest lesson is you can't treat it as one company throughout. I actually, as I think about it, I did 4 different jobs. Well, I did 13 different jobs, but I did 4 different companies over the time. There was a startup. There was a scaling business that was pre-IPO. There was an independent public company, and then there was a division of a public company. So there are 4 very different remits. And if I'd have treated them like I was at a startup the whole time, I'd have been fired, period. Because the things that got you to where you are aren't the things that'll get you to where you want to go. You have to consistently and evaluate where you are and then reinvent yourself as part of that. So if you'd have asked me when I started HomeAway if I was going to be excited about managing a team across 12 countries and 700 people, I'd have been like, oh my God, that sounds like the most inefficient thing in the world. And elements of it are. But you have to be able to reinvent quickly as a company and as an individual. And the biggest thing I'd say that made a difference for me at HomeAway was when somebody came to me with an opportunity, I took it. If it meant that I had to spend more time, I took it. If it meant that I spent a lot of time on an airplane and my wife barely knew me, cool. I mean, so that's one of the things. It's a trade-off for sure, but it is it is something that was important for me there. So, all right, I will end it with that on time.
Before we wrap up, I want to thank you, Jon.
Sure.
For taking the time to come and do this class with us. I think everybody would agree that it's such a wonderful opportunity to have the ability to ask these questions right after the class. And it's a dream what you did, right?
Yeah,
as you said,
absolutely.
That last question, starting from when you were only 3 to
Yep.
this huge company
Yep.
that it became. I think we all want to see more of those cases,
Yeah.
especially someone who was a student of Acton and
Yeah.
associated with a teacher. And I hope to see a lot of those cases here in Guatemala as well.
Yeah, you guys go do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
And if you want to know more and ask more questions, Jon is presenting today at 6:30 as part of the Entrepreneurship Week, Global Entrepreneurship Week here. So at 6:30.